Henry. Henry, please.
Your husband told me, Mrs. Stevenson, that in spite of your opposition, he had lunch that day with Mr. Ferguson. When he got home that evening, he said your father was waiting for him at the door, angry and worried.
All right, Henry. Come in the library. I want to talk to you.
What's the matter? Where's Leona?
Leona's in bed. She had an attack. A heart attack. She almost died.
Heart attack?
Did you two quarrel this morning?
Yes, but what's that?
Weren't you supposed to have lunch with Leona?
Yes, but I had to see someone else. Look, Mr. Cotterill, if you don't mind, I'd like to see Leona.
You'll see Leona when she's ready to see you. Just in case you don't know it, Leona's had a heart condition since childhood. Her mother died of it the day Leona was born. Leona can't stand being treated the way you did this morning. She never has been before, and she's not going to be now by you or anyone else.
And what happens if once in a while I have an opinion of my own?
I don't give a hoot about your opinions, Henry. Have them. Think anything you like. But while you're in this house, you'll do what my daughter tells you to do.
I think you should know that the argument this morning was about a very important decision.
Don't be a fool.
A decision I made as much for the sake of Leona's future as for my own.
Was it for her that you had lunch with Ferguson? Well, did you get the job?
No. No, I didn't.
And I'll tell you why you didn't. It so happens I'm a pretty good customer of Ferguson's. I buy more than $2 million worth of dyes every year. Now, who do you think he's going to care about, you or me?
So that's what happened.
Now, who else in Chicago would you like to have lunch with about a job? Oh, face up to it, Henry. Just as long as you're my son-in-law, you're working for me and nobody else. If you really cared for Leona the way I do, you'd have done the same thing in my place. Besides, you haven't done so badly for yourself. I'll go upstairs and see Leona. She's been asking for it.
Well, Mrs. Stevenson, as I say, we discussed all these things in my office 10 days ago, your husband and I. I asked Mr. Stevenson how long this heart attack of yours lasted.
Oh, she got well right away, Doctor. Maybe I should have pulled out then and there. But I didn't pull out. Somehow I couldn't. Her father wasn't altogether wrong. I hadn't done too badly for myself. Anyway, from that time on, I began to compromise. Always with the hope that somehow, someday, I'd win out on my own. But it wasn't long before we were right back where we started.
Another attack?
Yes, sir. I remember one day in particular. I had an idea that I hoped might help the situation.
Henry, you mean you brought me here just to look at an apartment?
Oh, you'd be crazy about it, Leona. Now, come on, let's go in and look it over.
I'm not interested, Henry.
But you haven't even seen it. Why, there are terraces on all four sides.
I've
and a
told
living
you 1,000 times we don't need an apartment.
Leona, it's not an apartment I'm looking for. What I want is a home of our own. You just can't go on living with your father indefinitely.
I don't see why not. There's plenty of room and I like it. Besides, who's going to pay for this little penthouse?
Well, I hope eventually I will.
Oh, eventually. But in the meantime, it's my money, and I'm the one who's going to pay for it.
Okay, Leona. Let's go.
Oh, Henry, you're so naive. You're like a little boy with a box of candy. I just can't throw my money away on everything you happen to see. There's a limit.
Sure, there's a limit. I'm supposed to follow you around like a pet dog tied to a chain. I'm supposed to like whatever crumbs you want to throw.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
Yes, you've got me sewed up 16 different ways for 3 meals a day and pocket money.
That's all you care about. That's all you married me for, my money. I should have known it. I should have known it.
Oh, stop it, Leona. Please, just for once, will you listen to me?
You hate me. You're bored with me. All you want to do is get away.
Okay, I'm bored. Bored stiff. Who wouldn't be with that neat little routine you've got cooked up for me? What do I have? Nothing. Nothing of my own. Not even the studs on my shirt or the matches in my pocket.
Henry, how can you say this to me?
You once told me I'd love this kind of life, remember? Well, do you want to know something? I do love it. I love it now more than you'll ever know. But I want to be my own boss, profiting by every bit of it. Not just a stooge on the outside looking in.
Henry, get me some water. Quick.
Listen to me, Leona, please.
Oh.
It isn't that I want to be without you. I could love you still if only you'd try to understand.
Henry, my purse. Henry, the pills in my purse.
That attack kept her in the hospital nearly 3 weeks, Doctor. At the time, I thought it was all my fault. But no matter what I did, her attacks increased in violence and became more frequent. About a year ago, Leona, she just seemed to give up hope of ever getting well. She took to her bed more or less permanently. It was my idea to come to New York and see you. The doctors in Chicago said she didn't have much of a chance. Anyway, we rented the house on Sutton Place, and here we are. And believe me, it's been more and more like a nightmare.
Mr. Stevenson, there's absolutely nothing wrong organically with your wife's heart.
Nothing wrong?
I've examined her thoroughly. And what you've just told me confirms what I've thought from the start.
And that is?
Her condition is mostly mental.
Mental?
She's what we call a cardiac neurotic. Her attacks are brought on by her emotions, a lack of control, her frustrations. The whole thing is probably quite unconscious on her part. Now, I'm not saying your wife isn't sick. Mentally, she is sick, and her attacks are real enough. But given the proper treatment, she may snap out of it entirely. Well, I'll call on her tomorrow. There's a psychiatrist I wanted to see.
Doctor, I wish you could wait a few days. I'd like to think this over.
Think it over?
Yes, you see, she's so easily upset. And I think that maybe I ought to prepare her. Get her used to the idea.
Well, a few days more or less won't matter, I suppose.
Unless you wanted to write her a letter. It might make it easy for her to take, and it would give me more time to talk to her.
Well, it's an extremely delicate matter, Mr. Stevenson. But if you think you can manage it, let's try it that way. Give me a ring in a couple of days. Meanwhile, I'll write the letter.
Thanks, Doctor. Thanks for everything.
Well, that's exactly the way I left things, Mrs. Stevenson, 10 days ago. As your husband requested, I wrote you the letter.
And I'm telling you I never received a letter.
Well, let's not worry about that now. I've told you everything, and now I want you to relax. Now, you have that sedative I prescribed?
Yes, it's here.
Well, then take some. Double the dose, and I'll...
Liars! 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 Hello.
Mrs. Stevenson?
Who is it?
This is Mr. Evans. I've been trying to get you, but your line has been busy. Has Mr. Stevenson come home?
No, he isn't here. He won't be back until Sunday. And will you please tell me what this is all about? Why are you calling him? Who are you?
I've already told you, Mrs. Stevenson, and I'm very sorry if I've annoyed you. But there are names and addresses that are very important for Mr. Stevenson to know. So if you'll be good enough to take the following message...
What are you talking about? I can't take any messages now.
If you'll please tell Mr. Stevenson that the house at 20 Dunstan Terrace has been burned down. I burned it down.
You what?
Also, that I do not believe it was Mr. Morano, the name is spelled Morano, who betrayed us to the police. And since Mr. Morano has been arrested by the district attorney's office, there is no necessity for the money now.
Oh, this is fantastic. What money? Who's Morano?
Thirdly, tell Mr. Stevenson that I escaped, and I am now at the Manhattan address. However, I do not expect to be here after midnight. If he wishes to find me, he may call me at a phone number, Bowery 2-1000. And now, if you'll be so good as to repeat...
You're insane. Do you realize I'm a terribly sick woman?
I'm very sorry for you, Mrs. Stevenson. I don't know. Perhaps it would be better to tell you the true facts. I mean now, before they are gobbled by the police. Maybe then you'll understand. But if you're ill...
I don't know what or whom to believe. So much has happened to me tonight. And I'm sick. My doctor says
I'll tell you all I know, Mrs. Stevenson.
Well, tell me then. Tell me.
It started over a year ago at your father's factory in Chicago. You see, Mrs. Stevenson, I had worked in your father's company for many years. I'm a chemist. Anyway, late one afternoon, your husband walked into the laboratory and he...
I get in through the kitchen window. I wait till the train goes over the bridge. 11:15. You got it all straight now? 11:15.
The clock on the table says 10 minutes to 11 o'clock. But Leona Stevenson, clutching the telephone, listens with mounting bewilderment and fright to the voice of a man named Waldo Evans.
Yes, Mrs. Stevenson. Your husband came into the laboratory and started asking me questions about the drugs we use and how we prepare them.
Well, this is very interesting, Mr. Evans. So, this is where the formula for all our products are developed, huh?
That's right.
Some of these drugs must be very valuable.
Oh, yes, Mr. Stevenson, very valuable.
And, tell me, what do you do with them?
Why, they go into the various Cotterell products, sir.
Mm-hmm. And, you're the man in charge here, huh?
Yes, sir.
I see. Well, thanks for your time, Mr. Evans. I was just curious.
Thank you, sir. Good night, Mr. Stevenson. That was my first meeting with your your husband, Mrs. Stevenson. Then, from time to time, he'd drop into the laboratory and visit with me. And one night, when it was storming, he offered to drive me home.
So you're a bachelor, Mr. Evans. Well, I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. I live in a rooming house on Chestnut Street.
A man all by himself. No responsibilities. Tell me, why do you work so hard?
Well, to tell you the truth, sir, because I have a hope. An ideal, you might say. In a few years, I hope to retire.
Retire, huh?
Oh, I have it all planned, sir. I'm going back to England. I hope to raise horses, sir. Well, not race horses. Just horses, sir. Do you care for horses, Mr. Stevenson?
Well, I'm afraid I haven't thought very much about them.
Oh, then you're missing a great deal. Well, that's my hope, sir. To live there quietly and raise horses.
Why have you waited this long? Money?
Money, of course. But someday I'll...
Well, why wait until you're old? What good is a dream when you're too old to enjoy it?
Oh, I've thought of that, Mr. Stevenson,